Hello, everyone. My name is Roy, your local Splatoon interview addict. And a topic that's always been really important to me is how we use Splatoon and other online video games, especially, to kind of grow as a person beyond just, oh, I got better at pressing the buttons. The interpersonal stuff, the stuff with how you react to other people, how you interact with the world. And I thought there would be no better person to bring on board for this discussion than Mr. Squid School himself. Jem, could you go ahead and introduce yourself for the people at home who may not be aware?
Hi, I'm Jem. I run a social media brand called Squid School, where I use lessons about how to get better at the video game to also help people learn how to be better people.
I told you it was a good fit, guys. It is that simple. So Jem, before we get into kind of what you do at Squid School, what you do with Splatoon, could you kind of introduce a little bit about how you started with your love of teaching to begin with?
That is a long and tortuous story, but to start with, I didn't go into even college at first thinking that I wanted to be a teacher. That was a development that happened like a good ways through my second year, if I remember correctly. It came a point where I really had to just choose a major, and there was some soul searching, and that was when I finally ended up with it. I knew I wanted to do something that would help people, and I was articulate. I had good, writing and language skills. But there were just a lot of things that I was thinking of doing, what psychology, a number of different things. Teaching, it came up because I think that one of the big dangers right now is anti-intellectualism and the inability of people to perceive manipulative speech that's aimed at them. I think that that's really dangerous, and that's something that I was taught about at a pretty young age. Like back in, I think it was like fifth grade. I had a teacher who started teaching us about advertisements and showing us ways that they can be misleading, ways that they can twist numbers. And I remember feeling genuinely very betrayed, feeling like as a child, you're taught a lot of things. You're shown a lot of information. You're expected to just absorb it because that's a point in your life when you do that. And like the adults in your life, well-meaning as they are trying to curate what you receive so that all of that information's actually good. They're going to put on something like Sesame Street that will actually teach you something. And to realize that even in media that was targeted specifically at me, people were already lying, being deceptive, trying to weasel money out of me. That was really eye-opening, really, there's a word for this. Disillusioning, that's the word. Mm-hmm. And ever since that point, I started looking with a more analytical eye at the world around me and becoming more and more disappointed as my life went on. I am someone who does not want to be the best at something in the room. I want to be the worst at something in the room. I want for everyone around me to be an inspiration to me, to be someone that I admire, someone that I look up to, someone that I can learn a lot from. I had an experience like that when I was in high school band, and that high school was very, very good. And I made it into the top band senior year and felt very out of my depth among some of the players there. Like we had people who were going off to some of the best music schools in the country. And that was the best musical experience I've ever had. I was the worst in the room, and I got to listen to how much cooler everything sounded when everyone was doing their jobs. That's the position I always want to be in. And I was going out into the world and finding more and more like, I feel like I'm having to be the adult in the room. I'm feeling like I'm having to explain things that I'd known for years. There's an example that I used in teaching a lot of writing and writing a rhetorical essay. It's a piece that's meant to make the students look at it and go, "Wow, I could write better than that." And then I tell them, this is something I would teach to sixth graders. I'd show them this example and then say, "Okay, so this was written by a 13th grader. This is written by a freshman in college." That's kind of the state that education's in some places in my country. And there are a lot of effects that has had on the world around us recently.
Mhm.
So I felt the way that I could best combat that into anti-intellectualism in general that is leading to a lot of situations where I'm annoyed at people. One of the best ways that I can do something about that is by being an English teacher, being someone who teaches rhetoric, who teaches analysis, who teaches critical thinking, and trying to basically immunize people against propaganda. So that was why I became an English teacher. And the route to becoming what I am now is also very weird. And probably nobody has anywhere near the same career path that I have to get here. But I could go into that if you're interested. But I've also told that story on stream quite a bit.
I find with your example of advertising, I find it particularly interesting. I think I've always understood the link that it is essentially propaganda for a company that wants to make money, but to hear it so explicitly that advertising is just propaganda for the profit is it's so succinct.
Yeah, like corporate propaganda is a lot more than just lobbying. It's a lot more than just advocating on behalf of an individual industry. It is convincing you that you need to buy this thing.
Yeah. And I think that's one of those things where when you become aware of what advertising is and why companies do it and the amount of money they put into it and the desired outcome of it, it's easy to like to think that because you know it, you're now immune to it. And that because you understand, like, oh, when I see this company logo and it's accompanied with a pleasant jingle, that I'll have an increased like brand recognition and I'll favor it over others. That because you're aware of that, it doesn't work on you. But that's not how it works. And with so much of the current global situation, it's so easy to still find yourself getting caught in the pitfalls, even though you know what the pitfalls are.
It's a source of real frustration to me. I look at deception, manipulation, and my philosophy is such that I want everyone to be happier. I want everyone to be better. Like, if my friends are happier, then that'll make me happier. If my enemies are happier, maybe they're not going to be my enemies. I want everyone to make the choices that are right for them. And when there is this deliberate effort on the part of any party to subvert that best choice for people, that's not best for them. That's not what's best for everyone around them. That creates a climate where the only way to be successful is to be more manipulative and to just subvert the will of everybody. Like, it has to go in the opposite direction at some point. It has to be moving towards a world that's more honest, moving towards a world that actually knows what its priorities are and focuses on those. A world where we're getting to know each other as people instead of sending spam emails to each other. All of that is the direction we should be moving in, and that's something that we kind of know, but there's so much inertia for no reason, basically, that's keeping us where we are. And so if I'm not going to be able to go and tell an advertiser, hey, what you're doing is bad, then I'm going to try and address their audience and say, hey, what they're doing is not what's best for you, and try to shift the culture that way.
Hmm. And so, Jim, you have this kind of deep, like, moral, what seems almost like a moral obligation to fight what you see as this unjust, like, system of control and propaganda, and these common pitfalls used by the people in power to maintain power and to push down rather than to lift others up. And you see teaching as your way of being able to combat that. And then how do you combine that with Splatoon, with gaming communities, with what you do at Squid School? How does that leap happen?
It's really pretty simple how it combines. The way that I see morality is not in terms of there is some determined thing that is good and some determined thing that is evil all the time in all situations.
Mm-hmm.
It's that what's best is whatever works, whatever is going to make a person happy, whatever is going to accomplish the goal. That's what's going to work. Manipulating and taking advantage of people, sure, it might get you some, I don't know, wealth in the short term, but it's also having this massive negative impact on society and trust in institutions and trust in you, and degrading your own ability to see what you're doing is helpful or hurtful. That in the long run, I think that those people are worse off, even if they get some short-term gain from it.
Mm.
In Splatoon, it doesn't make you a better player if you're a jerk to people.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you don't get teammates. Then people don't want to coach you. You get fewer opportunities that way. And sure, there are plenty of people who manage to get stronger at the game by being jerks. But the most fully realized players tend to be some of the most accepting, tend to be some of the more willing to reach down and help others up, because they have this unshaken confidence in their own ability, and there's no amount of poking at them that's going to make them feel insecure. And that's really what we should all be aiming for, is that security that they have combined with the critical thinking and the ability, and taking the negative emotions out of the game. So when I look at what I teach, I don't see that as being using Splatoon to teach this thing. I do still see that as teaching Splatoon. Mm-hmm. That's just the best way to play the game of Splatoon. I think that squid bagging is silly because it's wasting your time, increasing negative emotions, and making other people want to leave the scene, which ultimately is in the long term going to make the scene worse for you to be in. And so I say that squid bagging is a tactical error, not because of some separate moral sphere that it inhabits, but it's just not the right pragmatic decision to make. I like, all of my sense of morality is just based on pragmatism. And so it's, I can look at them from the lens of them being different qualities of what I say and what I do, but in terms of how I approach it myself, it's really not. I guess one advantage that it does have is, like, sure, there are some very specific details of the video game of Splatoon that aren't necessarily going to apply to someone's life outside it. But maybe, you know, part of the way that you can get someone to listen to these lessons is the fact that this is bound up in a hobby that they like. Because I can teach these same concepts in an English classroom, but people are more likely to be entertained by Splatoon than they are by Wuthering Heights. So the material that you pick as your kind of medium for isolating and explaining these concepts does matter, but it's still the same concepts because it's still the same human experience that applies. Where the same analysis will get you somewhere in literary analysis as it will in optimizing your Splatoon gameplay. It's the same thought processes. It's the same humanity that's there. So I could be doing this with basket weaving. I could be doing this with Splatoon. I could be doing this with athletic sports. This just happened to be the one that I was in the right place and time and situation to be able to grab.
I think what I really took from that, and what I always have felt, and what I heard from what you were saying, is that at the end of the day, it's so easy to diminish playing Splatoon as just, oh, it's just a video game. Like, it's not that deep. Like, it's just a game. But it is an act of humanity to do anything. So you're gonna find lessons and things to teach about being human in everything, because everything involves people.
Exactly. And I think that competition specifically is something that's noteworthy in that it will expose more of a person than what they would always like to be seen. It's not as curated because 50% of the people in any game of Splatoon are going to lose. That's not the side of people that they want shown. That's something that's very humbling. And I think that that's a powerful way of bringing I don't think that positivity is bad, but I think that failing to acknowledge that there are other states is. I think that it makes things inauthentic. It makes people check out, because as soon as anything doesn't match their expectation of positivity, they get confused. Like, wait, I was conditioned to think that everything is going to be happy all the time. I was conditioned to think that I will always succeed. And having something where you can manage failure, I think that that's really valuable. I think that's one of those big things that makes athletic sports also very compelling for people.
You mentioned earlier kind of like it could be anything. Like, it doesn't have to be Splatoon, but you were just in the right place at the right time with Splatoon to kind of use it as your framework to teach people these things. With I know on your channel you've talked about, especially your time in the Melee community and growing up in that, growing up as if it's like you were 4, but like and spending time in that space.
I was 12.
12, wow, okay.
I was getting driven to a community college tournament attended by a bunch of 20-year-old smokers as a middle schooler to play that game competitively.
Dang. Do you think there's an alternate universe where instead of Squid School, it's like Melee University? It's like, is that far-fetched?
It's kind of surprising that it didn't end up that way in some ways, because I've spent so much longer in the Melee community. Part of it was the demand of the work I was doing at the time, because they were working with the Nintendo Switch, and so they wanted content for those games. But part of it was also just that there's a lot more content in the Melee community. And part of what I was seeing was that we didn't have that kind of infrastructure, that communication, that teaching in Splatoon. A lot of people have commented, like, why is it this the guy? Why is this the one person that we're getting all of this Splatoon information from? He's only like Div 4 and low Div 4 at that. And it's like, there is a point there in that most of the time you see tutorial content, it's like, hi, I'm the #1 Akali in North American League of Legends. Here's how to play Akali, right? That's a lot of what you see for League of Legends. For Melee, it's like, hi, I'm the second best Marth on the planet. here is my university on how to play Marth. For me, part of the reason Splatoon worked so well was just that so few other people were trying to do that. There were some generalists. You had like, because I think at the time it was like basically Dude, and Dude does a lot of things, and teaching isn't the only one. And he's not like trying to specialize in specifically doing that thing. He's a general popularizer of the game, but a lot of the thought behind the channel also came from just the philosophy of the work I was doing at the time. Because I don't know if you're familiar, my viewers will probably be familiar, but I started off working for a company, Bravest Esports. You see that title card in a lot of the oldest videos on the channel for Splatoon 2. And we were working on doing youth esports leagues. We were trying to become like Little League baseball, but for video gaming. And we, God, I'm so mad that COVID went the way it did, because we were having success. We were getting repeat customers. We were getting word of mouth advertising. It was working. And then everything shut down for a couple of years. But the idea at the time was everybody targets the top of the pyramid. Everyone targets the competitive players. And the thing is, the top of the pyramid is small and pointy. The bottom of the pyramid has the vast majority of the audience. A lot of esports content right now is designed to help people get up the last 3 rungs. That's what all of those expert tutorialists are doing. But the rungs below that ladder, people are largely having to navigate all on their own. Let's put those rungs back in the ladder and get people up there. And that is a very cool concept, both just for the sake of building the scene, but also because it's way more profitable. There are more people that are going to view your content. So that's kind of what people need more of. And so that's a role that in athletic sports, you get filled by these youth leagues, but we just kind of don't have that for Splatoon. So like you can look at some 19-year-old baseball player who's just like fresh out of college, played ball in high school, isn't really ever going to be a pro player or anything like that. But that guy can absolutely coach pitch or referee it or something like that. And that's kind of how I see myself a little bit. I think I'm very good at the game, but I'm also not that good to the point where you would like know me on the merits of my skill alone. But I'm definitely good enough to help the vast majority of the community. And in that role, like, especially a role that's very much needed, I fit in pretty well. So it was a confluence of a bunch of different factors and the unique way that it all happened. In a different universe, I mean, I could be anything.
Yeah, right. Part of me always, when I'm thinking about, I know you mentioned like Dude in there about as an example of someone who was kind of talking about learning and talking about teaching things in Splatoon, but it wasn't necessarily like the be all and end all of his content. He is like full of variety. And to have a voice that is like so dedicated to it is definitely a niche that I feel like Squid School carved out early, and nothing has ever really come to bat in the same arena for it. What does that ever get to you? Do you ever feel like you have kind of an outside voice in that, an outsized voice in that field? Because I know, at least from my interpretation of you and your actions, I feel like you treat your platform with a lot of reverence, and you respect the potential that you have to spread harm and you use it carefully.
Yes, that second part is definitely true. I'm trying to. I'm not sure how the two ideas there connect, so I'm not sure if
Sure.
I'm going to answer the question the way you intended. Um, but I think that I mean it's hard to do something that someone's already doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to just necessarily invite comparison to it. There are definitely people who will make content that is educational about the game, that is about a different topic I haven't covered, or something that was on their mind, or something even that they think is a correction to something I've said in the past. And I welcome all of that. I also understand from their position, it's hard to just try and do exactly what I'm doing. And I wouldn't want anyone to try and do something because I've shown that it works, because I've created a niche for it. Like, it's not to say that I don't want competitors. It's not to, because really the way that social media works, the more people who are making something on the content you're making, the more chance it is that your content gets seen.
Yeah.
It really is a rising tide raises all ships. Like, I want people to watch Chara. I want people to watch Dude. I want people to watch, Chase 247. And I'm totally blanking on another person whose educational content I've been seeing lately. I want Pika is another one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want everyone to watch those, because if you watch one or two of those videos, suddenly I'm going to show up in the recommended. That's how YouTube works. You get a topic blown up big enough, and it will start sending other people to other things in that topic, and they will discover you that way. So that's not to say that there's a competition or anything, but I think that you're doing yourself a disservice if all you're trying to do is, I want to be Squid School. Because what are you doing that someone couldn't find at Squid School? Do something that they can only find with you. And it can still be educational, but maybe you have a perspective on a weapon I don't have, and that's most of what you want to talk about. Talk about that. Become the tent umbrella influencer, or become somebody who focuses more on macro game tactics. Become someone who analyzes top level Japanese play. Like, find something that's different from what I'm doing, and you'll probably have more success doing that than if you try to just insert yourself in the same niche. Like, competition for doing exactly the same thing is probably going to result in one party or the other limiting themselves in ways they don't have to. Make Splatoon stuff, make educational stuff, teach people things that I'm not teaching them. But it's like, if you try to just 100% adopt my philosophy, then the most you're ever going to be known as is a disciple of Gem. You're not going to be known for your own unique identity there. So I don't know. I don't think that there's a problem with people trying to do things really similar to what I'm doing, but also they should do what is an expression of themselves more than what is something that they've seen that seems to work.
Yeah, and I think in this field of just teaching things and using a video game, using a hobby as a way to do that, everyone is going to bring something new, and everyone is going to be interested in a different thing. And like, I know personally, I have learned so many completely random and different skills simply because I listened to different people and I wanted to do different things. I learned how to video edit because I wanted to make a silly montage of all my Splatoon 2 like sploosh kills, and I was like so proud of it. And then I went on to use that like properly. I learned image editing because I wanted to make a team logo. Like, I learned how to socialize because I wanted to be on a team. I think when everyone when you learn a diverse set of skills from a diverse set of people, it just elevates everyone.
I've always told people that I didn't have a teacher voice that I brought to the community. I had a tournament organizer voice that I brought to teaching. Having to call out, all right, you look at the player's name and you sigh, and then you go, all right, I need the D on station 4. Where's the D at?
And they're just sitting there like waiting to be called. It's like, hey, they're gonna say something real funny. Trust.
in the gymnasium full of 100 people, and all of them are listening for their names, so they hear you say it, and you're just like, well, let's just give the people what they want here and get the tournament moving.
Hey, sometimes it's just for the bit. Sometimes the bit is worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it.
Hey, if it stuck with you, it must have been funny. That's the only reason that could happen.
But yeah, like it's still one of the proudest things that I put on my resume, the tournament that I ran in college. I grew that from 5 to 10 people a week to 150 people a week. And it was the biggest event in the state for that game. We got a bunch of the top players in the scene to be coming out to it regularly. It was really cool.
150 people a week?
Yep.
Wow.
Melee is a bigger scene than Splatoon. That's something that I have to impress on people. It's probably, I would estimate, like 8 times larger. And yeah, there's a lot to be said there, but Melee is also just the mold in which we were built. Like, a lot of the early organizers in the Splatoon community were directly out of Melee or inspired by what Melee was doing. Splat safety, smash safety, obvious direct influence there.
Squid boards.
So
there was smash boards, right? I'm not in the smash
right, smash boards and then squid boards. Yeah. A lot of the ways that we think about tournaments too, like Swiss was a pretty new development, relatively speaking, because a lot of what we had done in the past was based on a game where you might have limited setups. And so Swiss only works the best when you have enough setups to do every single event at once, or every single round at once. There are a lot of comparisons to make there.
I kind of touched on it a little bit about the disparate skills that you can learn from video editing to image editing to just being a person and socializing, and all of the intricacies that come with all of those things, TOing, and there's so much to learn that you can do. Production,
broadcasting, community management, moderation.
Yeah, there's so much. Do you think it ever ends? Do you think you can use Splatoon to learn just about anything? Like, obviously there's practical limits. Like, you can use Splatoon to learn how to do your taxes, but like in a practical sense, do you think you can use an online an online competitive experience like Splatoon to learn just about any skill?
You'll learn whatever is valuable for that pursuit. I doubt that I'm going to learn to be an electrician from playing Splatoon. There's certainly directions I could go. I knew a guy while I was working at Bravis who knew a lot about video game hardware and had contacts with manufacturers and knew things about patents that I didn't. That was cool. So there's like directions that you can go if you go tangential enough. But everything is constrained by the material reality that it comes from. You know, this is a product that's produced by a corporation on a mass scale to entertain a certain audience in a certain part of the world that is by no means the majority of the world either.
Yeah, and like, even to use your example of like I doubt you could learn to be an electrician. You could you could argue like, oh, but like I'm learning how to move in a 3D space, and I'm constructing these like mental maps of how things work in my brain of like this is a flowchart of where I need to be moving around this map. And like in everything you do, there's a small transferable skill that even if it's like a tenth of the skill, just having that like mental pathway already mapped out in your brain, it's gonna impact you in so many different places. And I feel like it's so easy to forget that, yeah, you're playing a video game and it is a for fun silly thing, but it is actively like rewiring your brain to learn something as intense as like 5 minutes of constant hand movements and planning out a process and communicating with your team. And there's so many layers to it.
People are really good at pattern recognition, and sometimes it's like really valuable to be able to transfer skills across, and sometimes it's also like a comparison that only they would see and that is only useful for them to think about. And sometimes it's like, I mean, I definitely think that, you know, you can't just go through life with Splatoon as your only guide. I wouldn't dive into like the competitive Splatoon community as my one contact with all humans around. I would have friends in other circles, because again, being a this is something I made a video about recently, so this has been on my mind, but being a commercial product, this is something that can die. This is something where they can just decide to shut off the servers. This is something where Nintendo has so much control over this thing that if we build too firm a foundation on it, Nintendo could cause an earthquake and take it all down. And it's been a source of frustration for me, more so I think in the past than now. I think now I'm more, you can call it resigned to it, you can call it at peace with it, somewhere in between. But I used to want for Nintendo to see the potential that competitive video game communities had, that they really could be a third space for people, that they really could be this nexus for everyone to come together around a thing that they really care about and meet people. Like, I know people in the Melee community who have turned their weddings into Melee tournaments because that was how they met, and that was the community of people they were going to have around them. And that's a beautiful, happy thing to happen.
Yeah.
And Nintendo did not seem, from my view, to be interested in playing that role in people's lives, even though it seemed to me, at least at the time, that they had every opportunity to do so. That was something that was really upsetting to me for a long time through my life. I think that from the top down, their actions make a little bit more sense now that we've seen how much of a bubble esports really was. Now that we've seen all of these professional teams for, you know, the LCS or whatever, they're not actually worth their valuations. They're not making the kind of money that the investors were being told that they were. It was all venture capital and hype at the scale that they were trying to push it at. And it's not that it's got no value, just that it was a much higher value than people were being told. And I think Nintendo was in a lot of ways right to be very conservative about their investments into that kind of idea, because there were people who were trying to take it and run with it so far just to make themselves rich instead of to actually produce that kind of value I was looking for in society. They had to be careful. They had to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of anger that I've harbored towards them for that, but also there's still a part of me that hangs on to that idea of what it could be if we build it grassroots, if we build it the right way, if we do it without being deceived, without being marketed to. And then see, it all comes back to advertising. I've told people I think marketing is the most evil thing that you can do. And that's not made me a lot of friends among marketers, but it's just that manipulation, that lying that's at the heart of it all. That's what always bothers me, hurts me, makes me feel like humans can do better than that.
To again bring it back to, it's not necessarily like, it's not manipulation in the same way that marketing is for Nintendo to not value it, but it brings the same sense of like, it's ambivalence, which in and of itself is not lifting people up. It's kind of just a lack of action is an action in and of itself. To not support something is to support something else not happening, you know? So for a big company like Nintendo to be relatively backseat as they have been about it, I can absolutely see how it would make you frustrated, especially when I think we've all seen examples in our own lives or in the lives of our friends of just the level of personal impact that a video game can have on people's lives. There's people I've met through Splatoon that I consider family. There's people that I know through Splatoon that I'll have as friends for life, and I know that is the case. And especially when you have those experiences, you want that to be as accessible and as supported, and for us all as humans to be lifting each other up, so that we can all support that. So I definitely resonate a lot with this sense that like there's so much they could do. There's so much like joy and impact on other people's lives that's being missed.
Mm-hmm. And to be fair, there's also a need for balance, because there are any number of other things that could also be that huge for people.
Mm-hmm.
It could be really simple community endeavors, things you do at your library, athletic clubs, have a book club, all of those things, loving music, having an online community centered around music, around fashion. All of these are very similar communities. But one of the really challenging parts about a lot of that is that they tend not to be funded solely by a corporation with a profit motive.
Mm-hmm.
There are corporations that will, provide infrastructure for them that absolutely have a profit motive. Someone's got to sell you the running shoes. Somebody's got to put the books in there somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And the authors have the books to sell. But it's so much more controlled and so much more structured by that company. And I think that's a role that Nintendo never intended to fill. I think they just wanted to be video game Disney.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, Disney will try and tell you, oh, we're so impactful. We give children magic every day. Like, shut up. But like, Nintendo, I think, was in a position to do otherwise. And so when we saw the potential of it and, the competitive players started playing that way, we failed to consider that's not what Nintendo ever wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Sakurai made the Smash games with the intent that they would not end up with this experienced player absolutely dominating their opponent and making it so that it wasn't fun for them, because that was an experience that he had in the arcades. He was the experienced player. He played against this guy, was beating him pretty badly, and that guy left unhappy. And he was like, wait, this was just a guy who was hanging out with his wife on their honeymoon, and I made him less happy in that experience. That feels bad. I want to make a game that doesn't feel like that. But they did go and make Super Smash Brothers, which is one of the most popular competitive games of all time.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to own that one.
Yeah. I feel like you're kind of trying to fight a battle against human nature in some ways on that one.
Right. Like, why not make a game where people can't lose if that's what you want to happen?
Good luck.
People love Stardew Valley. You could make Stardew Valley.
True.
And they made Animal Crossing, so.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, like it's putting in a lot of expectations on that company, and I've come to appreciate that there are a lot of expectations on a group that's that big. For good reason. They're worth $85 billion. But also, we are a relatively small component of the people who are telling Nintendo what they should do.
Yeah, right.
It's really hard to understand just how many freaking people there are in the world. It's really hard to understand that the people you're seeing are not a representative sample of the people in the world. There are so many diehard cultures of people who don't understand that there are people who think differently than their culture does. And competitive gaming is absolutely one of those. We are a niche, small subculture of people who play video games. And so our demands on such a massive corporation like Nintendo, while it can clumsily step on us sometimes, and that's very frustrating and often hurtful, we also have to take into perspective, like, I don't want to say they're doing the best they can so much as they have so much that they're having to contend with, and the balance that they strike with it, only they have all the information they need to know that they're doing a good job.
Jim, you mentioned earlier, like, for someone else, what we may get from Splatoon, someone else gets from volunteering at their library or playing sports, or be it chess or boxing or whatever way that they interact with the world in this kind of, especially in a competitive way. But I think that distinction is, it's important, but it can be generalized here, I feel. How do you feel like a game like Splatoon, or even just like an online team game, compares to those more traditional IRL spaces that have been seen and explored for hundreds or thousands of years?
I do think that there is a lot lost without face-to-face interaction. We in the Splatoon community are trying our hardest to fix that as best we can, but we simply were given a game that is not designed to be played in person. Like, to put your Switch on LAN mode, you have to put in a code that the game never tells you how to do.
That is still absurd to me.
LAN mode is literally a cheat code. It's insane.
Yeah.
That's something that we will always have to contend with, because it's just expensive to make a LAN. It's usually a money-losing proposition. And it's something that you have to invest in to be able to get it all, which means that it's going to happen less frequently. When it does, it's going to be cumbersome. I am in the process of trying to build a LAN, and even bi-monthly is definitely some amount of effort that it takes a lot of people to put together. And bi-monthly is not a good amount of time if you're trying to learn how to socialize solely through playing this video game. Like, we're not going to put out these really hyper charismatic in-person people if that is the only way we're expecting for people to learn those kinds of things. I think that people should be invested in more than one community of this kind. I think that people should be trying to pull from as many different areas as possible. Go do music, go, volunteer somewhere, go work at a job that has you actually working in person with people, if that's a thing that you want to learn about. But the in-person socialization is just really lacking in online spaces in general, for obvious reasons. People might be good at writing, people might be good at speaking when they have a script, but in terms of seeing the whites of someone's eyes, reading their body language, and feeling comfortable knowing what's going on in that situation, this is not something that you're going to learn from Splatoon. I think that there's a lot of specific technical knowledge that you can get from playing a video game that you wouldn't get from elsewhere. You're learning these online tools, you're keeping abreast of a lot of ancillary information just by nature of how it affects you. I feel like I know much more about, say, generative AI from being in gaming circles and being inundated with discussions about it than I would have from being in some other pursuit. So there are going to be pros and cons of each one because there are different aspects of each that are stressed more. But I don't think that there's some quantitative comparison that's easy to make between all of them. I guess if you're in the stealing candy from babies club, then maybe you've got some things that you probably shouldn't be learning going into that. So I won't say that they're all created equal, but I will say that they're very hard to compare.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think it is a difficult thing to, not only because first of all of esports is within a lifetime, you know. like you look at a traditional sport, and like I know in your video that you put out recently about like you were joking about like baseball too. It's like like if you trace baseball back as far as you can, like when does baseball start existing? Like it's a slow progression of this thing over hundreds of years, and all of these different sports are like that. But with something like esports and competitive Splatoon, you can only have been doing it for 10 years. So not only is it hard to compare in the sense that they're all very different things and they're all specialized in their own ways, but also there's just not a whole bunch of lived experience with them. And I think it's a testament to the human condition and the power of community, that in such a relatively short time span that they've had such an impact on the people, at least around me, that I can see.
Yeah, it did definitely build on a lot of what has been created up until this point. There's a lot of especially athletic sports culture that really gave video gaming a boost. I think like we don't have such immediate impact with video games like this if we haven't already built up athletic sports infrastructure. So definitely standing on the shoulders of giants in some ways there. I think for some people, it's almost an extension of like, there's a reason we call them esports. I, for example, remember there was a person who came through my, back when I was working at Bravus, like when I was coaching Super Smash Brothers Ultimate to people. One of them came through because they were an athlete, but they had gotten injured, and in a way that they weren't going to be able to return to competing particularly soon. So this was a way that they could compete in something. So for them, it was almost a replacement sport. It was almost, they treated it very much the same. And I think without all of that work on figuring out how brackets work, on rankings, all of that work on how to organize a community, all of that work in popularizing the concept of this game can be a job, of this game can have an industry around it, like all of that is so heavily dependent on the sports that came before. And it also helped that by coming from a for-profit company, this company has a vested interest in shining a light, maybe not Nintendo so much specifically as all of the companies that made video games. They have a vested interest in their thing being the next big thing. So when esports pop off, they're like, yeah, we'll put some money into that. That makes our game show up in more people's internet feeds.
And I think even like you can look among all of these different hobbies from completely unrelated fields. And again, going back to what we said near the beginning of this, it is all just an act of humanity. Like there, regardless of what you're doing, how you're interacting with the world and the communities around you, you're doing it as a person with other people. So no matter what hobby it be, it'll still be just humans finding silly and sillier ways to interact with the people around them.
Yeah, we need excuses to go and talk to each other. We can't just like walk up to someone. That would be weird.
That's weird. You can't do that.
Yeah. Got to filter out the scary people, because there are no scary people who play baseball. There are no scary people who play Splatoon. We never have those. So, you just you trick yourself into communicating with them by doing the thing and then having another person there next to you, because you have to have them there to play the game. So you might as well. Yeah, people are weird.
Yeah, I find it interesting you bring it up like that, because a lot of how I frame all of this topic is I like to call it like, when I was like doing team manager stuff for the SBA or things like that, or in any of the work I do where I've been working with people who are new to the game, new to the scene, and I'm kind of mentoring them at how to get into the game, how to get into the community. Something I'll always like come back to is this idea that, sure, I'm doing it because I like the game. The game is fun. I like pressing the buttons on the controller. But my ultimate motive for like why I have ever helped anyone get into this game is because I know that they'll be a better person for it. Like, I know they'll have good experiences that make them grow, and I know that they'll be challenged, and I know that they'll come out on the other side of that challenge better for it.
Yeah. And I think that one thing I will say specifically for this community is that there are a lot of pitfalls other communities have fallen into that we have managed to avoid. We are we're not a vessel for military propaganda like some other games in our genre are. We have a diverse community. Like, we're up to probably like 1/8 of our competitive community is non-male. Like, that's a lot better than you see in other places.
Yeah, I have census data in my brain somewhere. It's oh my god, my brain is ticking. I think 1/8 isn't that far off. I think it's more. I think it might be like 1/6 ish. I'll put it. I'll get the editor to put it on screen. Hold on, what timestamp are we at? Okay, editor, put the current like gender breakdown chart of the Splatoon community on screen, and we can go from there. But it is a remarkably diverse community. I do know one figure that I do have off the top of my head is that of all the people surveyed in the Splatoon community census, I think it was like a quarter of them identified as trans. It is, or in some other way like genderqueer. It is like such a large percentage. Again, I'm going to put graphs on screen because I'm going to be getting the numbers wrong. But it is such a diverse community with so many people from so many backgrounds. And again, we were talking about like always like diversify the communities you're in. Like always try and hear from as many sources as possible. It's so easy in the Splatoon community to have so many different voices all singing in chorus, and to have all these different people from different backgrounds show up and be welcomed. I think it's remarkable what we've been able to make and what we continue to make.
Mm-hmm. For sure. It can also be a bit of a bubble in its own way.
Yeah, right.
I find it's funny sometimes talking to like a lot of the time it's like someone who's in like atheist communities or queer communities. Like, you talk to them about what the general population thinks.
Yeah.
And they're often very wrong about that because
Absolutely.
they only surround themselves with people like them.
Yeah.
and then you tell them like, oh yeah, no, the majority person like believes this. You're like, oh, I like it's bubble popping for them a little bit.
Yeah.
There is something to be said for, not every opinion needs to be represented. Not every perspective is one that would be healthy for us to consider for ourselves. And that's something that I struggle with sometimes is looking at there are some things that I feel just don't work, but if I talk about them directly, it alienates people who might otherwise have been convinced. Um, so I definitely like, it's like, to what extent are we really better, and to what extent is it like, oh hey, insert queer person here waving to all of their queer friends, hey, come over here, they're not mean to us here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. It's a double-edged sword, because I know I did in my early days on the internet. I fell into those spaces with like atheist content creators and like science content creators geared towards like debunking misinformation type stuff, and you get into that bubble of like, it's the like facts and logic bubble where like everyone,
it's just self-evident.
yeah, it's just self-evident. And I think it took me a while of branching out into other communities and eventually kind of leaving that sphere to make me realize, like, oh, I was talking to like 10 copies of the same person with the same belief. No wonder I held the beliefs that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can definitely be, again, it's variety is the spice of life. It's knowing as many people with as much background and exposing yourself to that, and not just doing the same thing on repeat and getting only the same exposure to the same things.
That's something I think about a lot when I think about commenters on content, because on one hand, you are going to get exposed to a mountain of perspectives that you wouldn't have had exposure to otherwise. On the other hand, you still also have to acknowledge that these people are not representative either, because these are just the people who chose to click on your thumbnail.
Right? Yeah. That's true.
And that narrows it down massively by itself. Even then, you get this massive diversity of opinion, and a lot of those opinions you have to just look at and go, I don't agree with that, and it's not worth it for me to try and express my disagreement with that. If anything, having someone who posts repeatedly disagreeing with me in the comments is only benefiting my metrics, and it's benefiting my mental health not to engage with it.
See, that's the thing, Jem. You put too much faith in me to not engage with it. So
I mean, I put too much faith in myself that I don't engage with it. It's something that I think I have the benefit of experience telling me this is how this is going to end when you engage with it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I have a friend who I worked with at Bravis back in the day, and that I did a few podcast episodes with at that time. And something he said that stuck with me is, if somebody's going to engage with me in good faith, I'll engage with them all day. If nothing good is going to come of that, if there's like, if my time is basically being wasted by that, then I don't need to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think maybe that's part of the root of it. Maybe we want good faith discourse, and that's all we've ever wanted. And whenever we run into bad faith discourse, we're like, hey, turn that back to good faith. I like the good faith better. Maybe that's what 5th grade me wanted all along. Just to be able to yap at people, and for them to have to contend with the things I'm saying, instead of just going, you're a nerd.
Is there a more human desire than to be heard, truly? To bring it back to Splatoon, and it's kind of, we talked about its place among just like hobbies and the human experience generally, among other games of its type, like basically just online cooperative team games. do you think Splatoon is uniquely placed to be like a good tool of self growth and learning and self improvement?
For a lot of things, yes. Um, Something that I remember, I think it was like an interview with a military recruiter or something.
Hmm.
Um, the One of them was asked like, "Hey, like, what makes a good soldier?"
Hmm.
And they were like, "I mean, some of the best guys we get were just good like StarCraft players or something, or like, you know, they played some online game and they can call out in a way that is meaningful and quick and communicative. Like a lot of the ways that the games are designed, um, Splatoon isn't immune to this because it comes from the same genre. It might even be with intent to train people for the military in some subtle way. Um, I wouldn't put it past someone like the US government to be like, hey, you want to tweak it this way? We'll give you money. um, Heaven knows that's happening with like the MCU movies. Like,
Yeah, and like
I think about like
Transformers.
Captain Marvel's the one that hit me the hardest because that movie is so explicitly about not seeing people as other than you just because your society is telling you you need to invoke military power against them. But then there's just like a 10-minute joyride montage of this superhero who can fly in a US fighter jet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shoehorned into the middle of it. I look at that and I'm like, huh, what else are they doing that to?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that to an extent that might be designed, but it still makes a lot of sense that like this is a game that builds teamwork very well. You have to be able to move fast. You have to be able to communicate fast, and figuring out how to do that and actually having to do it repeatedly and building the skills for it really helps in a lot of places. I think if you're going about it the right way, it really helps with managing your emotions and managing your nerves because over time you realize that there's no reason to be upset and that being upset you've seen where that leads, you've seen that it makes your results worse. So I can sit in a tournament setting and just know that someone else is less experienced than me because of the nervous mistakes they're making, because in game they might be like picking up Rainmaker at the very beginning of the game and just getting splatted right away. But I know that that's going to translate into other things. I know that if I start fishtailing on the highway, instead of freaking out and not knowing what to do and going, I'm going to be like, wait, what's the next step I have to do? Okay, I need to turn into the skid. Let's go. I'm going to be able to execute on that. I don't think that that's a thing I would have within myself without gaming. So our game is very fast twitch, and there's certainly a lot of analysis involved with it. But I think the ability to do something fast and accurately is something that this trains very well.
Yeah, I agree. I think beyond just what Splatoon does well, I think in some of the design choices that go into the game, like it being team based and you need to like work together and collaborate with your team, but also like even the lack of just open VC within the game compared to like COD lobbies have the reputation of being toxic because it's just like anyone being able to talk to anyone. I feel like there's something that comes from needing to seek out the connection of people to be in VC with, that acts as a filter towards that sort of thing. Because again, going back to way early in this conversation, we talked about, it's good to be nice because it's better for literally everyone. And sure, you can get far being an asshole, but if you're a good person, that's better for everyone. So everyone should be a good person to everyone. And I feel like the current setup of Splatoon's game design really encourages that, because there isn't that sense of, oh, and I hop in a COD lobby, like I cuss at someone because they were bad at the game or whatever, and then we move on and we never talk to each other. I feel like the way in which the game and the community around it is structured is to the benefit of meaningful connection.
Yeah, like the lack of voice chat is low-key one of the best game design aspects of this game.
Uh-huh.
And that sounds crazy to people in traditional gaming spaces, but like, look, there's a reason we have so many queer people. There's a reason we have so many women. It's that we don't have voice chat with random people on the internet. That's an aggressive space for other people to have to experience. That's something that not everyone is willing to put up with. And so not having that is good for us. I try to stress that as much as I possibly can, that like that is probably the single reason above all else. Like, sure, you could talk about the aesthetics of the game. You could talk about how, oh, it's not brown military man with gun. It's, you know, colorful and pretty. And I'm like, sure, whatever. It's the voice chat.
Something that I became aware of recently through I think it was like a YouTube short, was a feature in Marvel Rivals where there's voice changers where, especially like femme sounding people, can put on voice changers to make themselves sound more mask so that they don't have to deal with misogyny on voice chat. And I think I forgot how good we have it until I saw that.
Yeah, that's such a crazy thing to... I'm glad someone's trying it. I'm very curious how the experiment goes. But also, like, that's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Does it let mask people fem their voices to go and try and get what the opposite experiences? That's so interesting.
Yes.
I feel like that must be so eye-opening for so many people.
Yeah. Because I would love to see someone who's like staunchly that kind of like, oh, but women have rights, there's no misogyny, put on the femme voice changer and then just like go in a lobby, 10 lobbies in a row, and just like see their experiences. I would love to watch that happen.
Yeah, I'm sure there's so much content of that already. What I bet they're going to try and do is just go and catfish people.
Yeah, right.
I feel like that's the immediate thought.
I do remember there would be like videos growing up where it'd be like, I pretended to be a girl in Minecraft, and it was like going on Minecraft servers and using like a femme voice changer, which like this was like 2012 voice changers, so it was like just pitch, like it was just pitched and they were trying their best. But the one I heard from that YouTube show with the Marvel Rivals one, it was like scary good. Like it was really convincing.
This, I'm sure, bodes well for the information pipeline of our society.
You could have just left it at this bodes well for our society, and I think it's just as bad as actually.
Yeah, I'm so scared about how easy it is to fake things now.
Yeah.
I'm so scared about how difficult it is to verify information.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
It's on the cusp of becoming almost impossible.
Yeah,
for the normal person to see. Like, I hope journalists are keeping abreast of this and that they have tools, because I just don't know what I would do in their shoes.
Yeah. I work in a newsroom. I know it is I know it is a topic of discussion very regularly, at least where I work.
It makes sense that you're a journalist. I get this now.
It did take a while, Jem, where I got a job in journalism, and then I kept doing that for a while, and then I got really interested in doing interviews in the Splatoon community, and those happened like independently. And then there was a point where I was like, wait, I do my 9 to 5 in journalism, and then I come home and I just do more journalism.
It's funny that that didn't occur to you sooner.
No, it didn't. It is funny. Yeah. Because I was just like, oh, I just like talking to cool people and learning things and then sharing it with an audience and like making information accessible to people. And and I like journalism too, but that's a different thing.
I went into Bravis and I was like, hey, I'm still making PowerPoints just like I did when I was a teacher. Cool, I can do that.
It's not the same thing at all.
A journalist in denial.
It took me a while.
We need so many good journalists. We need more good journalists. I don't care how much the industry becomes hostile to it because of corporate forces. Like, you are doing such important work in literally whatever it is you're reporting on.
Yes. I look around at my colleagues, and I am infinitely grateful to have so many great voices talking about so many great things. I'm very lucky to work where I do, but I'm even more lucky that the people who work where I do work where I do. So I think I'm more hopeful than most about the future of journalism, but it is under constant attack. Yeah, it is a scary time to be a human being.
I am really happy when I get into one of these really important fields and I see, oh, there are people who know what the hell they're talking about. There are adults in the room here. There are people who care, and there are people who are doing the right thing. And it's a lot of the time, like, they aren't the loudest voices publicly, but when they're the ones who are actually at the reins, you take a sigh of relief. Something I felt about, like, the Splatoon community. It would be very easy for any online community to be dominated by loud, angry voices, but in fact, the people who are generally in charge here, the people who are tournament organizers, the people who are other kinds of community organizers, content creators, community safety people, like, when you get to the top end of things, like, they're good people. They know what they're doing, and they're doing it for the right reasons. And that's something that I've been very appreciative of, especially with the time that I've spent here, with the amount that I've been invested in all of the things I've been through.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very well put. A question that I want to make kind of a template one that I ask most of my guests, but haven't been able to, given that most of my previous interviews up until now have been on very serious discussions about, like, discrimination in communities. So it just hasn't felt very easy to slot in, but it's one that I've been wanting to ask each of my guests for a while. In Splatoon, generally, and it's going to be a difficult question, and it may even be too on the spot, but in Splatoon generally, if you had to make a Mount Rushmore of the most impactful, I'll let you decide whether you do, like, people in the community or, like, players or whatever you want to pick there. But if you have to make your Splatoon Mount Rushmore, who are the four most impactful people?
Oh man, that's a hard question. Because it's like, it's not hard to put 4 people up there.
Yeah.
What's hard is to not put so many other people up there.
For sure.
Jeez. Part of the problem for me is that I wasn't around in the Splatoon 1 period.
Sure, me too. Yep.
There's this thing that I keep making this comparison in so many other places. So I'm just going to call it the Citizen Kane effect and hope that this catches on. So Citizen Kane, if you watch it right now, you'll be like, I don't know what the big deal was about this movie. Like, why is this on everyone's top list? And then you look at another movie that was made in the 1930s and you go, oh, this did everything differently, and every modern movie owes so much to the like. I don't think it is possible for another movie to be as impactful as Citizen Kane was, because it pioneered so much of the medium.
It's like the Beatles.
I feel that way about
music.
Right. I feel that way about a lot of things. Like in video games, Ocarina of Time on a lot of people's number one games of all time list, because there were so many things it did uniquely. It was one of the first games in 3D space, and it told a story in a different way, and so much owes everything to Ocarina of Time. I don't enjoy playing Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
I think that there are a lot of games that have since expanded on that. So it's like, there are all of these proto-organizers who I am not familiar with that were massively impactful and determined the course of so much in the scene.
Absolutely.
And yet now I don't even know them because I wasn't a part of the scene back then. But some people that I think, oh my God. And it's like, there's, do I have to name just a few?
An acceptable answer.
I want to just like,
there are too many.
I would like to give some, I would like to give a bunch of shout outs.
Yeah, go for
where
it.
It's like, because in Melee, like there was this habit, and I've just thrust this upon the LAN server that I'm a part of. There was this ritual of, after a tournament, you throw out shout outs on like Smash boards to just generally the people that you feel like giving a shout out to, people who made your experience better, people you had good games with, things like that.
Yeah.
And one of the nice things about it is that you didn't have to include every single person. It was just like whoever came up off the top of your head, and it didn't have to feel like a complete list. It still felt good to say something nice to that person at that time. And it's like, I don't want to, if you make me say that these are the four, I just can't do that, because that would feel mean to all of the other people I don't include on that list. But if I do it in this kind of shout outs way, where it's like, here are some people who are coming to mind for me and who have especially had a good impact on me and the work that I do, that's more manageable. I want to give a big shout out to Siren. I think Siren is probably at this point like the most senior tournament organizer in the entire scene. Just so much experience there, so much knowledge, so competent. I want to give a big shout out to Fusion. Fusion's guide on how to run a local LAN is such an amazing blueprint for how to do that, and we have depended on that extensively to get our own up and running. That work that Fusion did is so huge for building local scenes, which is, I think, is a really important thing to be doing right now. Dude is probably the most important competitive Splatoon content creator of all time. I maybe outside of Japan. I don't know what Japan's got going on. I'm not as familiar with that area, because it's just a bigger community there. But like in the West, Dude has been doing it for longer. Dude has brought more people into the scene, basically anybody else. Huge asset to the scene there. And there's still too many people. Nine is the most amazing public face that we can have for our scene. Like, knowledgeable, but also charismatic and good at broadcasting, and able to get along with Nintendo in ways that I have sadly been unable to over the years. And also really good at Ultimate Frisbee. Let's see. And more names just keep coming to mind too. Like, I haven't mentioned any top players yet, but there are so many of those that deserve their... The more I think about this, the more I'm like, I can't do it. There are too many.
There are too many.
Like,
I mean, you're correct.
There's so many, and there's so many people who have had such an acute impact on me as well. Like, I would feel at some point like I need to shout out Devi. Like, Devi is someone who has been such an integral part of my relationship to the Splatoon community. From being my team captain for all these years, for having these ideas of how competition and how people should relate to each other in competition, how to approach the game. And it's like, I don't know how much she impacts like the global scene as a whole, but maybe she does through me. I don't like
And how do you measure that versus everything else? Exactly. It's really difficult.
I do also I do want to shout out Rose. I think Rose is a very like granted like popular content creator by Splatoon standards, but also Rose should have a bigger platform than me. I genuinely I trust her judgment. I trust her values so much, and I want like I genuinely want her to have a bigger platform than I do. Pro Chara is very important to the competitive scene, like one of the mainstays of competitive content, and has always been working to do better as time has gone on. Like earlier Chara content and current Chara content, they're not the same, and there's a lot of time and investment that went into that. He's very important, and he's one of those voices of a competitive player that are very articulate and are able to communicate ideas from top level to other people, which is so important. And that's something that I can't do because I'm not at top level. Milana has been doing this for such a long time and has such a positive, like a very disciplined, positive outlook on everything. I think this is a very weird comparison to make, but one of the things that I really admire about Pokimane as a creator is her like messaging discipline. There are a lot of ways that it would be possible to bait her into saying the things that haters want to hear. There are a lot of ways that she could say something off color, something that gets her into trouble, and she's so good at steering away from those things. It's that same kind of discipline in being relentlessly positive and working hard to be a positive impact. I think Milana is very good at that. I'm just going to stop because I'm going to keep going. Otherwise, there are too many people.
I think it speaks to the volume of the quality of the Splatoon community. But then again, to wrap it fully back around, we're all just people interacting with people in weird ways. And there's great people in every corner of the world, in every hobby, in every online space. But I always, it's always that cognitive bias of, but my group is the special one.
And it's like, it's bothering me even now, because it's like, okay, well, I said Siren. Why didn't I say Magic? Magic's cool too. Like, insert person that you were expecting to hear, and I didn't say. I probably would say something about them too. Yeah. So yeah, that's why it has to be this like non-exclusive group. This is not just my top 4. Like, this has to be, these are some people that immediately come to mind that I want people to appreciate.
These people et al.
Yes. There we go.
Jem, it's been great to get to sit down and talk with you about this. Is there anything that you'd like to touch on relating to this before we go ahead and start wrapping up?
Follow Radha on youtube.com.
Ding, ding,
like, can
ding,
I re-say that because I've pronounced your name incorrectly? Like, everybody cut that out.
Please, by all means.
Follow Roa on youtube.com. Excellent content creator, does good journalism. I'm sorry, I had a student whose name was spelled exactly the way that yours was, that pronounced it Radha.
Oh, yeah.
And
okay, call it. Were they Indian?
Yes.
Yeah. No, because
Indian girl.
Yeah, it's an Indian girl's name, but it's like a gender neutral, maybe slightly femme coded Irish name pronounced completely differently.
Right. So I saw it, and I know it's pronounced Roa because I made sure before we started interacting and everything. I went and was like, I'm saying it right? You need to say your intro slightly slower so that people hear it every time.
The thing is, Jem, I didn't like choose my intro. I just did it once, and then it got faster every time. Like, if you go back, I think it was like in my second or third interview, I did like, "Hello everyone, my name is Roa. And then I was like, oh fuck, what do I say next? Local Splatoon interview addict, apparently. And then I continued doing it, but then I got like Markiplier syndrome. And I started doing the, like he does, "Hello everyone, it's Markiplier." but I just
right. It's like there's something to it being a joke of I say this every time, but also like, especially when you're on the come up still, which I think you very much are. I think that like your audience is going to increase over time as you pump these out more consistently. I think like you think about someone seeing your video for the first time. And if they see it for the first time and they hear that and they can't make it out, they're going to be like, I don't know what their name is.
yeah, that's so fair. I'll just do it where I'll keep every other word at its current speed, but I'll just like stop for that one. I'll be like, "Hello everyone, my name is Roa. Your local Splatoon interview identity."
Make it sound like you're a bot. You're using AI to make your intro.
Because like, I don't know, I've had it where people mispronounce my name, and I'm like, I say it at the beginning of every video, but like,
here's what you do: make it a creative exercise that the very first sentence of your interviews you script. Everything else after that, you can improvise as much as you want, but just come up with that first sentence. You know, "Hi, my name is Roa, and I am your Splatoon journalist. Hi, I'm Roa, and I'm here to bring you the new perspectives from around the Splatoon community. Hi, my name is Roa, and I like cheese." Like, just throw something out there that's going to be a little treat for someone to be like, "Oh, what are they going to say this time?"
For sure, interesting. I'll take your advice. I think it's been something that I wanted to rethink. I also I have to make like a set outro, because every time I get to this point of the interview, I have to like I'll get to this one. I was like, oh god, I got to do an outro now. What do I say?
Outros are so hard. I repeat myself over and over again. Like, if you watch one of the end of my streams, I thank you for watching like 3 times before I actually conclude. It's like a Minnesota goodbye, but people don't know what that is, and you probably don't either because you're Irish.
Yeah. hey, we could do an Irish goodbye, which is just like leave. I bet. It would be.
See, the Minnesota goodbye is you go, "Well, I think it's about time I get going." You keep talking for about 15 minutes, then you stand up, then you talk very slowly, taking about 1 step per minute on the way to the door. And then they follow you out the door and watch as your car leaves. And it is only once your car is out of sight that they will actually go back inside and the goodbye is finished.
Yep. Okay.
Anyway,
for the sake of the viewers, for the sake of the listeners, I never know what to call them, because I feel like most people just listen, because the visuals aren't that interesting. Like, it is just like boxes lighting up, but it also feels weird.
Your audience, for the sake of the audience.
True, the audience. Whatever you, the experiencer of this multimedia visual audio format, have to say about this. Thank you so much for watching, Gem. You've been an absolute treat. You've been a gem of a guest. I hope you don't get that a lot.
Wow, I've never heard that one before. Nobody's ever told that joke in the history of Gem being a gamer. It's okay. All of my favorite ones have actually made that joke once or twice. So.
Hell yeah! You heard it here first, folks. It's that like it's that logical fallacy of like all A or
Gem's
B.
favorite squid signing off.
Gem's favorite, putting it in bio. All right, everyone. I've been Roa, Gem's favorite Octoling. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out my others, I got a big playlist, because I upload interviews to way too many channels. So if you want to find them all, they're all in just one playlist. You can find that on my channel. If you want to follow me on Blue Sky, at ismisharoa.bluesky.social, there will be a link in the description, because I do not expect you to know how to spell Irish. Gem, where can the people find you?
I will be giving you a link to my link tree with all of the stuff I do. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitch, I'm on Discord. There's a whole community of thousands of people. I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky, TikTok, Patreon. There's a bunch of stuff. So I'll just give you the link tree, and that can go in like the description or something. And then anyone who's curious can go and click on that, because clicking things is fun.
Clicking things is fun. All right, guys. I've been Ro. Again, thank you for watching for the third time. And I'll catch you around. Peace out, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was the fourth time.